Today we're making a beef Wellington. I'm going to start off now by making a Madeira sauce, it's like a red wine reduction jus sauce. So over here we've got some dried chestnut mushrooms, just soaking in some boiling water to create almost like a mushroom broth. We've got some beef stock and our wine. I'm going to start off by finely dicing the shallot, and we're going to saute this in butter until soft and translucent, at which point we add in the wine. Just going to get this peeled. Hopefully I don't start crying. Gonna go most of the way through, but not all the way through to the other end. And then we use the bridge method to make straight lines through the shallot. And then this way now all we need to do is this to get a nice even fine dice on our shallot. There we go. Just do the other half now. Get rid of the waste and we'll get it in the pan. Repeat the exact same thing we just done with the other half of the shallot. Get this nice fine dice, and then we'll go straight into the pan with some butter. There we go. Just scrape this spot, scrape the waste into the pan. It's always handy to have a little bag that you can use as a bin right below the chopping station. Clear those chopping boards nice and quick. We will get the pan on the heat, and now we will get generous knob of butter in the pan. I'm going to say around this much, just enough to nicely coat those shallots and let them saute nicely until we're going to saute them until they're like soft and translucent in this butter, and then we will add our wine, and that's where we start making it into a nice sauce. Just gonna let this butter melt quickly. Yeah, I think we've got a good amount here. And get our shallots in. I'll let them saute nicely. Lower that heat to medium heat. And just let these cook away. These are going to be strained out at the end, but they just provide a nice flavour and base to our sauce. Nice and fragrant. Just let them go for a few minutes. Get the lid off our wine ready. This is 187, I think. Just about 185 millilitres of wine. It's a nice red wine you want. Really complements like the Wellington well that we're going to be making. Going to be serving this Wellington today with some nice creamy Dauphinoise potatoes, some asparagus and some tender stem broccoli. They look nice and softened up and sautéed nicely. We're going to get the wine in. Every bit of it, every last bit. And give that a little mix. It's going to be like a nice, deep, rich sauce. And now we're just going to let that come up to a nice boil. And then turn it down to like a rolling simmer and let it reduce by about a third before we add the like mushroom broth and the beef stock. Now that our wine is reduced down nicely, we are going to get in our mushroom like broth. I've took the mushrooms out because we don't want them in the sauce, as this is going to be a smooth sauce, but we just want that lovely like umami earthy flavour that they provide. And our beef stock, that was 135 millilitres of beef stock and 130 millilitres of that mushroom broth. Now, I'm going to bring this back up to a boil. And once this is back up to a boil, we're now going to let it reduce down by around half the volume. At this stage, once it's boiling and reduced down, we'll season with salt and pepper, and then we will strain the sauce to remove all those shallots. All the flavour will have been like absorbed into the sauce by now, so I'll just remove them, get a nice smooth sauce, and then leave that off to one side, because we will reheat this with some butter for a nice glossy finish just before we are serving. As you can see, we're now back at a boil, and I'm just going to leave this to do its thing until it's reduced by at least a third, preferably a half, if you can afford to lose that much, because it'll give us that nice consistency and that nice concentrated flavour. And once this is reduced, well, we will sieve all of the shallots out of the sauce. This now is reduced down by between a third and a half, so I'm just going to go and strain this through a fine sieve into a jug, and then we'll put the smooth sauce back into the pan. Now that our nice and smooth sauce is back into the pan, we can give this a taste and season to salt and pepper, which I will do. So I'll give that a little spoon taste now. Just going to add some salt and some pepper. And some pepper first. And a nice sprinkling of salt. Now we'll give that a stir to combine and give it another taste, see if the seasoning needs adjusting. If not, the sauce is now ready to just be left and sit, no heat, just in the pan until about 10 minutes before we want to serve it. We'll bring it back up to a simmer, add some cold butter, and give it that nice glossy finish that this sauce needs. So I'll just give this another taste now. Yep, that was seasoned nicely to my liking. So now I will just leave it on the back of the stove, no heat, just out the way. Until now, the Wellington. Got a beautiful fillet of beef. Bought from the butcher's yesterday. Beautiful cut of beef. Comes from just below the spine in the cow. That's why it's one of the most expensive cuts in the cow. Due to the low amount of muscle in this area, makes it such a nice, lovely, tender cut. We're going to season this up now. Salt and pepper, that's all we need. And this is going to get a sear in a minute in the pan to just seal all those edges. We want to seal the beef, seal all those juices in before it gets wrapped. Make sure to get all sides and roll it around in those seasonings. It's just a nice bit of flaky salt, and gonna do some freshly ground black pepper in a second. Make sure to season those ends. I'm going to do some pepper. Make sure to get some on the board so we can get those ends. Once again, roll it in those seasonings. Get those ends nice and seasoned. Can't ever forget about the ends. We are locking in the flavour and the juices. So we're going to kiss the ends in the pan once the rest of the fillet is seared. And that is our beef fillet, seasoned and ready to be served. So now we've got some oil in this pan. Our beef nice and seasoned, ready. Got our yellow mat for when the beef's done. And our mustard and pastry brush. Because as soon as this beef comes out of the pan, I'm going to brush it all over with this nice Dijon mustard to lock in the flavours and ensure and provide that nice heat. And you need to do it whilst the beef is still hot, so that mustard really has the heat and the time to just seep into the meat and provide that nice flavour and heat. So we're going to get this pan on a very high heat now, because we want this to be a very hot and fast process. We want the beef still entirely raw in the centre. We want a nice sear to lock in the juices. As soon as I get this in, I'm going to go and throw my red mat in the sink and be back. Just let this pan get nice and hot. We want this oil, we want it ripping hot. Just going to give that a minute to get very hot. We want this to be as fast as possible. And I think that's going to be hot enough any minute now. When we get that beef in. So we're going to do literally like maybe less than a minute each side. Quickly sear those ends out onto the yellow board for cooked meat, and instantly brush with that mustard all over, edges, bottom, top, all over. Yeah, we're going to get the beef in now. And use the edge of that pan. Use the edge of that pan, try and sear two sides at once. Like I said, we want this very hot, very fast. I'm going to go and run the red chopping board to the sink. Just going to give this top side a little stir. Just going to get those ends. And out of the pan. No longer than that. And now over here we are going to quickly brush this beef on all sides with this lovely mustard. That you can hear in the background is just the tap running. really cover this whole fillet. Need that much. Get those edges. We just really want this to seep into the beef and just be an extra thing to lock in all the flavours. Just another thin extra layer. Just make sure we've got this all over. Looks like we have. Just touch up these edges. Now leave this just on your plate or your board and leave it to rest. And whilst that rests, we will work on our duck. So now we are going to work on the duxelle, which is like a fill-in for the Wellington. It's just mushrooms. I like to put garlic and shallots in mine. Make sure you take all these little stems out, and we'll throw all these in the blender once it's done until they are very, very nice and fine. Also in the blender we'll go those two cloves of chopped garlic. Well, I'm doing 2 because mine were very small, but if you've got a decent sized one, just 1's enough. You don't want it to overpower. And a whole shallot. Doesn't have to be finely chopped, just a rough chop, so it's not clogging up your blender. This is going to be cooked in a dry frying pan. You want to get it completely dry. You want all the moisture from these mushrooms because they have a very high moisture content. You want to cook it out until all that is gone. It'll go deep in colour and you'll physically see the moisture coming out of the mushrooms whilst you're cooking them in the pan. And you want to just let that go until they're completely dry and let it cool. And then we will then begin to assemble the Wellington. We will wrap it, on cling film there'll be a layer of Parma ham, and then there'll be a lovely layer of this duxelle we're making now. Then goes on our beef Wellington. Then we are going to wrap it, put it in the fridge to firm up for about 15-20 minutes. You want to get it nice and firm so nothing's unwrapping, and then that's when we bring out the pastry and when it gets very, very real. So now those mushrooms are in the blender and all the stems are in the bin. We're going to chop up our shallots again. They just provide such a nice flavour and they are great in a recipe like this. Once again, doesn't need to be finely chopped. This is going in a blender anyway. Just get that peel off. Really fiddly, that peel, such a thin layer. There we go. Oh, can't get it. I'll just take that outside layer off. I cannot get that peel for the life of me. There you go. I'm just going to chop that into quarters. Stick it in the blender. That's half the shallot in. Let's do this other half now quick. It's the exact same thing. If you can't get that peel off, just take this outside layer like I'm doing. Again, in quarters. And then, now garlic. Easiest way to peel a garlic, smash it first. All that peel should come off nicely. There we go, all in one. Nice clove of garlic. Same step again, smash. Just with the back of the knife. Obviously be careful of your hand on the blade. It's easy to avoid, but still do it with caution. Always do anything with blades with caution. Just take that little end bit off. And now, yeah, we're just going to give these a little rough chop. Just like this. We just want it rough. We're just going to go in the blender anyway. It's good enough for me. And the garlic in the blender as well. Just cleared up the board, put the waste in the bin, and now all our mushrooms, garlic, shallots are in here. Just going to put it on high. And we just want to do this until nice and fine, scraping down the edges, making sure everything gets blitzed. We don't want any chunks, we want it very nice and fine to then go in the pan after this to dry it out. Scrape down those edges. And same again, on high. Give your blender a little shake, make sure nothing's sticking to those sides. You want to make sure everything's nice and fine. Back on high. You can do this with a knife or even two knives, but that process can be very messy and a lot more time consuming than just using a blender, food processor, whatever you have. It saves you a lot of time and a lot of cleanup. Just these mushrooms, a few of these mushrooms are getting stuck to the bottom, so we're going to try and loosen that up. Get that caught in by the blades. Obviously, always be careful when reaching anything down into a blender. These blades are razor sharp. Going to give that another shake up again, and back on. We just want everything small, everything very fine. I'm at a desired consistency with this duxelle, and we're going to get it in a pan. Right, so we're just going to bring our blender over to our pan. Going to get this on a nice, like, medium to medium high heat. And we just want to cook this for as long as we need until all the moisture comes out. You will visibly see the moisture leaving the mushrooms. Just shake off those blades. Hopefully there's no, like, chunks that were messed in here. Looks good to me. Gonna get those all in now. I'm going to stick this bit in the bottom, back in the blender, just because there's a few chunks in here. Then we'll get the rest into the pan, let that cook down. So now all our duxelle is in the pan. I'm just going to let this cook. Don't know how long it's going to take. Time can vary for the amount of mushrooms, the variation of mushroom. Some mushrooms just have more water in them than others, and we're going to let it all cook out. Just try and keep it all as one, like, layer in the pan. Like what I'm trying to do now. And we'll just turn it when needed. Let it go that nice deep colour. And make sure all that water's cooked out. We want to cook this until dry. Because if this isn't dry, you're going to end up with soggy pastry in your Wellington, which no one wants. And it can ruin the Wellington. Obviously a lot of steam's going to be given off because you are evaporating out the water. Don't worry, nothing's burning, just let it keep going. Now our duxelle is all cooked down. It's got that deep colour, lost that light grey colour, it's gone like a dark grey, deep, like browny colour, that's what we want. It feels dry to touch, most of the moisture is fully cooked out. And we're just going to leave that now to cool before layering it in our Wellington. Now it's time for us, or me, to begin assembling this Wellington. Our duxelle is cooled a lot of the way. It's still slightly warm, but doesn't matter. Our Wellington, one of our fillet beef, has been resting since it was cooked, and that is cooled all the way. We've got our Parma ham out, we've got our cling film ready, so we're just going to go for it. I'm going to roll out enough of this cling film out to here, out to the edge of my work area, giving myself as much room to work with as possible whilst we make this. So this is where I'm going to try and make it. Just going to get this pack of Parma ham open. This is what I'm using instead of making like a chive pancake or crepe, because it just provides that saltiness. It's a lot lighter, like takes away some of the density from the dish, and yeah, that nice salty flavour that this provides is just brilliant. And we're just going to want to get a nice layer down and overlap every piece to try and make sure everything stays locked in as well as we possibly can. The only problem with this is it tends to rip apart as you're pulling it off the thing, so just try, I know I'm not doing the best job of it right now, but just try and keep it as intact as you possibly can. We don't want anything seeping out the bottom. We'll try and keep it all wrapped up nicely, nice and tight. And the amount of this, they'll have messed that piece up, I'll leave that piece out. The amount of this that you need obviously just varies on the size of your Wellington. It all just comes down to the size of the Wellington you are making in the end. This is really a pain to peel. It's good enough for us to use. I might just do that as 2 pieces. There we go. And then get this down. And onto this, once it is done, once we've got that nice layer of Parma ham, we're going to spread a thin layer of our duxelle. Then we're going to lay on the beef, wrap it, roll it as tight as we possibly can. Like, we want this very tight. And then we're going to leave that to rest in the fridge for like 15 to 20 minutes to let it firm up, to hold that shape, that nice cylinder shape, because we don't want to roll it really tight and then have a loose Wellington and not have it nicely cylindrical. I think that's the word. Just try and clean up as you go, keep all these plastic bits just going straight into the bin. There we go. Last piece, I'm not sure if I'll need any more, we might have to open that second packet, that's not a problem. I think this looks good. I hope. Yeah, that looks good. Now, onto here, our cooled duxelle. Just want a nice layer, edge to edge, leave about an inch from the edge, from like top and bottom, just for easier rolling. This is the stage where we just want to be taking our time, want to make sure we get all of this right. This is only a small Wellington, obviously you can make this on a much larger scale. But I'm only making this for 3. So we don't really need that huge amount. Same as this cut of beef is so expensive. Bring our nice rested beef over. Don't want that pastry brush for, leave that over there. Now, what do we want to be our bottom? Yep. So, beef on. Just gonna give our hands a quick wash. Just dry them off quickly. And now, I'm going to fold the edge here just to make it for easier rolling. Just like this. And now we're going to want to lift up. I might have to put a second, yeah, I'm glad I spotted that. I'm going to put another little layer of this down, just here. Make sure there isn't enough to encase that whole beef. We don't want this beef leaking out onto the pastry. We want to keep our nice crisp pastry and our nice moist beef. This Parma ham will not stay intact, but you might have better luck than I do. But you just want to try and keep the gaps to a minimum, just overlap each piece. Hopefully this will be enough to get our whole Wellington nice and wrapped up here. Move this back a little bit. Now we're going to go up. Is that going to cover it all? No, I'm just going to do one more little bit. You just want to take it slow. Make those little checks. Because if you can, take your time and correct the error, why wouldn't you? This is my first time making a Wellington. So I'm just trying to get to grips with the amounts, what needs doing. Take my time. Yeah, that's definitely enough. All the way over. Very nice and tight under there. As tight as we can get it. Just give that a nice roll. Keep it tight. Keep tucking that under. And now we're just gonna nip the ends. Give ourselves a bit of cling film to work with. And we're gonna just give that slice up here. Got a nice bit there to work with. I'm going to nip these ends in as tight as we can. Give it a nice twist. Same on the side. Tuck it in, give it a twist. And now we just want to let the cling film do the work for us really, in keeping this Wellington extremely tight. And that is the first stage of wrapping your Wellington. Now, while that Wellington is resting in the fridge, it's time to prepare the pastry. This is some homemade puff pastry that I made last night. Got a floured work surface, floured rolling pin. I'm just going to roll this out to the thickness that we're after. Obviously it's a bit stiff because it's been in the fridge overnight, but we'll get it rolled, no problem. I like making, I wanted to make my own puff pastry for this because Wellington's already seen as a challenge among chefs. Why not go the extra step and just make everything as homemade as possible? Just going to give it a flip and a turn, get some more flour down. We don't want this to be sticky at all. We don't want anything sticking. It's the last thing we want to make this Wellington. We want this puff pastry perfect. We'll trim the edges into a nice square once we're done to the desired thickness. Just a bit more flour down. I'm going to aim for like a pound coin thickness on this pastry. I think that's a decent marker to go for. Make sure you try and get the rolling as even as you can throughout. Don't want super thin edges and a thick centre. End up as not being cooked properly. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this pastry. Rolled out to a nice thickness. I'm just going to give this a little trim now. Just try and keep it as perfectly shaped as we can. Set those off to one side. Obviously you can do something with them. They can just go in the bin. I might make something out of them later, so I'll just leave them off to one side. Nice sheet puff pastry ready to wrap our Wellington. Happy with that. Now I'm going to try and move this off to one side. I might have to fold it in half. I hope it doesn't stick. Yep, just like that. And now we're going to get some more cling film out. Just try and brush all this flour off to one edge. Clean this up with a bench scraper once we're done. And I will be back when it's time to do the final wrap on the rail back. This has been resting in the fridge for about 15 minutes. It's the nice first inside layer of our Wellington. Puff pastry is down on cling film. Wellington in. Gotta try and move fast here. And keep that nice shape. And very carefully, you're gonna lift up your pastry. And go over. Keep that cling film down, we don't need that yet. Until the two ends meet. Trim that off, trim off any excess. We just want it to where the two ends meet. So I just leant over and had a little look, made sure that is the right, yep, it is. And now I'm just going to get all these edges and give them a nice twist together. I think personally it looks quite nice on the sides, and obviously it keeps the Wellington closed, which is necessary. Like, this is not an optional stage. You could, if you really wanted to, get a bit of excess, cut a little patch and basically like put a patch over. But I personally like the little swirls on the end. This is necessary to seal. Any further decorative is fully up to you. Get that nice and tight. Now, we want to put cling film over and keep it tight. It's so crucial to keep your Wellington as tight as you can. Do some rolling just to try and achieve the perfect shape that we're after. Press those sides in, get that nice cylinder. And now, same concept again. Just going to want to press down and nick those sides, give it a nice twist. Should have enough cling film here. Just going to give that another trim. I don't really want to do it straight onto the wooden surface, but I don't really have much choice. Oh, you've got a lot of cling film to work with here. It's a good thing. Give it a wrap. Nice and tight either end. Give that a nice wrap. You can do this all the night before. You can prepare your Wellington. Take the stress off on the day. But now I'm just going to leave this in the fridge for, I'm going to stick it in the oven in about 2 hours. So this is going to get all that time to rest in the fridge. Get lovely and firm. Keep this nice cylinder shape. And that is your nicely rolled, tight, compact Wellington. Right, the Wellington wrapped in the fridge and ready. Now let's get to work on these Dauphinoise. I prepared my potatoes last night to save me some time today. I've done 4 large Morris Pipers and sliced them slightly thinner than a pound coin. They've just been in some salt water overnight just to stop them from going brown. So, into this pan, we are going to add 300 millilitres double cream. We're also going to add 200 millilitres whole milk. Now, I'm going to need my green board back. Let's give this a quick dry. I've got 3 cloves of garlic here. I would just do 2, but one of them is really small. So, not chopping this or anything, literally just smash to release the flavour straight into that cream. Obviously, we will be removing all of this at the end to have that smooth cream, infused cream. But for now, it adds a brilliant flavour. Now, discard that again. Now, nutmeg. Brilliant flavour. Pairs very well with cream. We just want a solid pinch of that. Not to overpower, but to provide that strong flavour. We don't want to completely overpower the cream though. About that much. To this I'll also add a few cracks of black pepper. Some people say use white pepper so you can't see those black flecks in the cream, but I personally think it looks nice, and I'm not serving this in a restaurant or anything. This is just for me and my family, so it's all down to preference. Bit of salt, again just some flaky sea salt. Now, get your whisk, give that, combine that. Now, we're going into the pan. Now we're going to turn on the heat, like a medium low. And we want to slowly bring that cream up to temperature. So we don't want anything to split. We just want to let this simmer and infuse all those nice flavours of the garlic, nutmeg, salt, pepper. Infuse the cream milk mixture for around 5 to 10 minutes. Once that's done, I've just flicked cream everywhere. Once that's had time to infuse, we'll take out those cloves of garlic. Take out those cloves of garlic. Add in the potatoes. They're only thin, so bring it back up. Let it come back up to simmer. I'll leave the potatoes in there only for like 2 to 3 minutes. Just let them slightly soften, and then we'll arrange them in our baking dish. So this has been going on just a light simmer for just over 5 minutes now. Like 7 minutes, I'm going to say. So if we got a spoon, I'm going to fish out all those garlic cloves and the skin that's floating around. And then we will get our potatoes into the mixture, put the heat right down. There's some garlic skin. Let me get a piece of tissue out. I'm not making a complete mess with the countertops. Try and take as little cream mixture as possible. We just want to get rid of those garlic cloves. Here's the last one, I think. There is. I think there is another garlic skin. No, not garlic skin. Another bit of garlic in there somewhere. There we go. I've dropped it. There we go. Only a tiny bit. So now we want to done with that spoon, stick that in the side. Get all your nice sliced potatoes. This is if you are making a Dauphinoise. Turn that heat up a tiny bit, because as soon as these go in, the temperature's going to drop. Or begin to drop. And you want to get all of these potatoes in. I've done 4 very big ones. Actually, you've got to do what can feed your family. Get them all in. And once they're all in, you're going to get them all coated in that nice infused cream. Just going to let them go on the heat for about 2-3 minutes. Then we'll take them off, allow them to partially cool. Obviously some people handle heat on their hands better than others. I've been cooking for a decent amount of time now, so it doesn't affect me too badly. Like, I can take heat on my hand and it doesn't really affect me. So I'll just turn these off, give them a few minutes to slightly cool down, and then I'll start layering them in the pan, in the tray, the dish that I'm cooking them in. I get them all submerged. Let this come back up to a simmer and leave it for about 2 minutes. Happy with that. Now they've all slightly softened. They've had like 2 or 3 minutes on the pan at most. take those off the heat and allow them to slightly cool until you can. Now the potatoes are cooled enough for me to handle. This is the dish we're cooking them in. Just going to take each one by one. I'm just going to layer them around the inside. I'll show you the first layer and then I'll cut off and come back when we're finished and I'll show you the top. And then these will get baked later for around 40 minutes until they've got a nice golden brown top at like 180 degrees. Yeah, 180 for around 40 minutes. 35 to 40 minutes. I like to layer mine because I use this oval dish in like a round spiraling pattern. It is quite a time consuming process. You can just dump them all in, but I personally, you don't get those layers as well. Like you just sort of get a big dish of potatoes, and I personally love the way it looks when you do it this way. So there we go. There's our first layer of Dauphinoise potatoes. I will come back once it's done. So here is the finished product. Well, not finished, it needs to be baked. But so I've just gone round in circles, layering up in a line through the middle. A season between each layer I forgot to mention. So I go layer, salt, pepper, nutmeg, layer, salt, pepper, nutmeg, all the way up to the top. And then you pour that cream out the pan. You might not need all of it. You want to still be able to see the top layer, but it should still have a bit of a coating of cream on it. Up to there, press down with either your hand, it's messy, or just weigh it down with something to make sure that cream seeps into all the gaps. And there you are, that's ready to go in the oven for 35 minutes, 40 minutes-ish, at about 180. So our Wellington, out the fridge, ready to go in. I've personally put mine on a bit of greaseproof paper, just to prevent any potential sticking. We've got an egg yolk wash, just the yolk, just give it that perfect golden finish. Gonna give this a brush all over, just to get that nice golden finish that everyone wants on the pastry. Just want to get this all over. Cover every last bit of that pastry. We want it to be nice and golden all over. That nice crisp. Gonna give it a generous sprinkle of flaky salt as well. Get that crisp crust. You know that, don't forget to get the other side. Spin it around actually. Once again, this is just with the pastry brush like we did with the mustard. Now we've got a nice even coating all over. This is optional. It's a decorative thing. Back of the knife. Do not pierce the pastry. Gonna go down the middle. I'm gonna give it one of these. Do not pierce the pastry, no matter what. You just want to get a nice little pattern. Do not pierce it. Spin it around, make it symmetrical. Now, just a nice, generous sprinkling of your flaky salt. This gives it that nice salty pastry, nice crisp coating. Be very generous. And that is ready. That's going in the oven at 200 degrees for around 30 minutes. Want to read 50 degrees internal for a perfect medium rare of a Wellington this size. So we're going to stick it in, hope for the best. Now our Dauphinoise potatoes are going in the oven at 180 degrees for around 40 minutes until they've got that nice golden brown top. Just to thicken up the sauce when I'm reheating it at the end, I've made a cornstarch slurry. Just going to add that bit by bit until I get desired texture. Add the butter, get that glossy finish, and the next time you'll see this food is when it's all plated up.